Could I now call upon our Chairman, Alan Dukes, to introduce Minister Kieran O'Donnell. Alan.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Pat has just talked about connection, and that's what Asia Matters is really about. We are quintessentially a linkage organisation, and I'm delighted that we have finally managed to make a deeper link with Limerick than we've been able to up to now. And I've been hugely impressed by the linkages that are already in operation in this city. My task is to introduce Kieran O'Donnell, who's Minister of State for Local Government and Planning. And I have to say, we have history. Kieran happened to be the opposition spokesman on finance at a time when I had the dubious honour of being a director and then chairman of the then nationalised baddest bank in Ireland. We had a number of fairly frank discussions about banking policy and industrial policy generally and finance. But I must say, I found him always to be a person who listened and who tried to understand. I had a little difficulty occasionally in getting him to understand my point of view. You know, I'm a very reasonable person. You know, my maxim is be reasonable, do it my way. And he unaccountably refused on a few occasions to do that. But I have to say that he has a role which is very important in the context of what we're talking about here today. Local government and planning in particular, is a key part of our reaction, of our action of integration and connection. And I think the role of local authorities is expanding. And there is a greater growing understanding in local authorities of the role that they can play. And I think that's a really important dimension. And I have to say that we've had the opportunity of being heavily involved with local authorities in various countries, not least in China. And I have always found that city administrations and regional administrations in China are always extremely keen and active to make connections. And they really put their backs into it. It's a wonderful thing to do, and I hope that we can do that kind of connection elsewhere. Our local authorities are, if you like, they're the skeleton of the government reaction, of the public reaction to innovation and enterprise. And I look forward to hearing what the Minister has to say to us about that. Kieran, please.
Thanks very much, Alan, and I'm delighted to be here this morning. When I got the invite from Martin Murray, I was very keen to take it up, more particularly because it's in Limerick, and obviously my role in the Department of Housing with responsibility for local government and planning. Firstly, can Your Excellencies, Ambassador of China Ho, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and Ambassador of Indonesia Desra, it's great to have you here. Ambassador Ho says he's been a frequent visitor, but he's very familiar with the Ayr Golf Course. I think it's the first visit for Ambassador Desra, but we look forward to you many more times. And I suppose, can I obviously acknowledge your chair of Asian Matters, Alan Dukes, who doesn't need any introduction. And he really has been on the political landscape throughout my lifetime. He was leader of our party when I was a student in UL, a small time ago, but a time ago. And he really has been a colossus. And he's, from his Talis strategy way back up to his stewardship of Anglo-Irish, which was an extremely difficult job. He really has done the state some service. You might just acknowledge it. A round of applause. Can I also acknowledge my former Oireachtas colleague and former Minister, Mary Mitchell O'Connor. I saw her coming in at the back, but she's below, and great to have you in Limerick, Mary Mitchell. She was a valued colleague of mine. I suppose I want to touch on, my colleague Patrick O'Donovan touched on the whole issue with the Irish policy around Asian Pacific out to 2025. The market in Asia is enormous. It's a population of 4 billion people. It has two of the largest economies in the world. It involves 20 economies. It's a huge market for us. But we see it as a two-way street, and Pat Daly spoke about, the CEO spoke about partnerships, but we see it as a partnership as well. And I was speaking to Ambassador Ho before, there are 100,000 Irish living in the Asian Pacific region. And we see them as ambassadors in their own way for Ireland. I suppose in summary really, we set a target of 100 billion in two-way trade between Ireland and the Asia. We expected that, we've reached that at 2025, we're 2 years ahead of target. So really it's the dimension that it's a growing market for us, and we want it to be a two-way street. And I suppose I want to bring into the context of Limerick and the role of local government, and what I will touch on is the direct elected mayor. I want to touch on the planning bill, because we're at the moment, for the first time in decades, we're basically doing a consolidated planning bill, but many new aspects to our planning legislation as well. It's going through the Oireachtas at the moment. This region is a very dynamic region, and CEO Pat Daly made reference to it. And if you look at in the Midwest region, we've seen growth of 2.6% in the region, substantial growth in that region over the last year. We've seen a lot of significant jobs announced since Eli Lilly came. Analog Devices within a year have made a major investment, 30 million. Kieran have brought a couple of hundred jobs in recent times, and many other. If you look in Limerick alone at the moment, we've 73 IDA companies employing 16,000 people. In the Midwest region, we've 159 IDA client companies employing 27,000 people. So we're very much a region-based who has, I believe, an expertise in working with FDIs. We want to see that grow in terms of the Asian Pacific as well. And the CEO Pat Daly made reference to partnership approach. The partnership approach, it's a partnership between the local authorities and the stakeholders in the region. So if you look at the physical layout of this region, we have one of the largest deep sea ports in Shannon Fines Port down the estuary. We've Limerick City here on the Shannon, growing at a rapid rate, with the local authority getting directly involved in an economic agreement through Project 2030 with physical sites. In the last number of days, and it will be launched shortly, with the Opera site, we're seeing the government, we very much support what the local authority are doing, put 42 million into funding to bring about a site which will have major office accommodation, we're looking at over 10,000 square metres alone. We'd hope that some Asian Pacific company would come and invest and bring jobs into that area. And Martin, you made reference, Murray, you made reference, your executive director, about, I looked at the FDI Intelligent Flagship Cities myself. It was only published in the last 2 weeks. And Limerick, for micro cities for Future 2024, it ranks number 1. For the Midwest region, once again, its category ranks number 1. So we're going back to what the CEO, Pat Daly, said. We see ourselves as very much a dynamic, growing, vibrant, edgy city where we welcome with open arms. So if you look at the partnership model, the council, local authority, our third level institute, University of Limerick, and you see Nigel here from UL, TUS, Technology, University of Shannon, Mary Immaculate College, and all the other level institutions, Shannon Airport, Shannon Fines Port Company, the chambers, and government. And the model is that if you come to Limerick, you can effectively, on the spot, see the sites, working with the IDA, Enterprise Ireland. And Enterprise Ireland has client companies based in Asia up to 600. You can effectively, it's a one-stop shop. So we want to see Asian companies coming in here, visiting the region. We obviously want that reciprocal arrangement with the local authorities as well, and it's something that Limerick has very much fostered. I very much welcome yesterday's announcement launched by Ambassador Ho on the Henan Polytech University with joint venture with UL. It's hugely important for our region. And the structural things we're doing here, the IDA have put in a digital manufacturing centre funded by the state out in Castletroy alongside University of Limerick in their own industrial park. And that's hugely significant. On the partnership model, we believe we created something here that in an Irish setting is unique. We want to see people come and visit. We, by all means, enjoy the golf courses and enjoy the amenities, but we want to see it bringing tourists. We want people to fly into Shannon. We want to see people avail of what the Shannon Estuary has to offer and our deep sea port. And there's huge plans for Shannon Estuary as well. I'd say I've been up. Pat Keating is due to be here as well. Can I then move on to, I suppose, two aspects within my own remit? Back in 2009, the people of Limerick voted by plebiscite to have a directly elected mayor. And we had plebiscites in Limerick, Cork and Waterford. Limerick voted 52% for, 48% no. Cork voted 51% against and 49% for. And Waterford did likewise, 51% against and 49% against. I know it's a common feature in your countries. This is the first elected mayor in Limerick. So the people in Limerick voted for it, but I'm conscious that quite a number did not. So we have to bring people with us. So when I got elected to appointed this role by the Taoiseach Leo Varadkar back this time last year, his priority for me was to get direct legislation written and through the door. And that's been both challenging and rewarding. And tomorrow, I will be bringing it for the final time before the Dáil, which is our first chamber, to bring it into legislation. So it's had 21 hours of debate, and that's quite significant for a piece of legislation, and it will then go to the President for signing. And the format will be is that the councillors, we 40 local authority members, their role will stay as it was. They still have the reserve powers over the budget. They still have the reserve powers over development plans. What we've done is, and Pat Daly is an excellent CEO, but this is an evolution. So some of the responsibilities and powers that the CEO has will transfer to the mayor. So the mayor will now bring the full budget, which is a 600 million budget year, to the chamber. The mayor will bring all development plans around housing, development plans, they bring it to the chamber. The CEO will become like a Director General of a government department. And we want the mayor to drive policy. And people who are coming from abroad, they're used to having direct elected mayors. After the election will take place on the same day as the locals, which we expect, I don't want to preempt, there will be announced, will be sometime between the 7th and the 9th of June. And thereafter, the writ hasn't been moved yet, but you can take it as being the 7th and the 9th of June. After that day, we will have a directly elected mayor with a mandate from the people, the means of a budget, and we are giving additional funding up to 40 to 50 million to the mayor over their term, in addition to the budget they will get via the normal 600 million budget. And they will have the structures. They will be interacting with government. I've created a framework where they will meet the government at least twice a year. or at further times that either side wishes to. They will drive all infrastructural projects. They will effectively be able to bring all the stakeholders of the region together. But really it's about getting into that pivotal role, being a champion for Limerick and drive our brand. It's groundbreaking, but I'm conscious as well, I don't know how it is, I can't speak with authority about, we'll say, China and Indonesia, but it has been a mixed picture across the landscape in Europe. Many countries, certainly in the UK, many of the local authorities are reversing the decision on direct elected mayors. So what we have to do here is it has to work. We have to bring the people who were not keen on it with us, but it's going to be really a challenging and really exciting time for Limerick to have a direct elected mayor. It just so happens that I'm the minister who happens to be from Limerick, who has been responsible for both writing and bringing through the legislation through the House of Oireachtas. And Alan will know, as a former member of the House, always not straightforward. So it has been something I've taken a lot of opposition amendments because they have, I think, enhanced the legislation, and I very much look forward to it. But when people come here, they'll know who they can meet. I want to touch on our planning laws and legislation, because that's a big issue for companies coming to Ireland. So we are currently reforming our legislation. We're streamlining it. The measures we're really, I suppose, are bringing is that we're trying to ensure that our system is efficient as possible. So our local authority planning system is relatively robust. You have to make a decision within 8 weeks. Currently, if it is appealed to our board, which is on board Panola, it'll be the commission. There's no statutory deadlines for making a decision. In the legislation, we are now changing that. So any application will have to be processed within 18 weeks. If it's a large-scale strategic investment project, within 48 weeks. So for the first time ever, there will now be obligatory statutory guidelines. And we want to bring clarity around how our system operates, certainty around deadlines, because that's hugely for companies coming in. And we want to bring consistency how it's interpreted nationally. So whatever region of Ireland you come to, the planning laws will be interpreted the same way. And then if it goes to our courts for judicial reviews, we've streamlined that process whereby we want to ensure that it's dealt with as quickly and as efficiently as possible. But equally, under our House principle, which are European principles, people will still be entitled to object, but if they're ludicrous or frivolous, that they can be thrown out by the courts. So it's currently going through our Oireachtas, our Parliament at the moment. It's in committee stage. It's getting detailed scrutiny. We're hoping that we will have that in by our intention is to have it in by the summer period, and it's good to see Eamon Murphy arriving to an audience. Welcome, Eamon, who has been a and Eamon has been one of the stakeholders in the region for many, many years. So really, I suppose, the message I want to deliver here this morning is that government want to continue to drive our relationship with Asia, a specific region. The fact that we have the two ambassadors, China and Indonesia, here this morning signifies that. We want to build on that relationship. We want to showcase what Limerick has to offer. And I think from being here, you'll see it's a dynamic. We are an edgy city, but we're proud of that. You'll see driving through the city, we've cranes, we've buildings, we've constructions underway. We want to see companies from abroad coming. Equally want to drive in the Asian Pacific regions through our IDA, through our Enterprise Ireland, and on Patrick's Day, we're visiting 11 countries with ministers. I'm not going there myself. I'm going to Austria, the Czech Republic and Bratislava. and in terms of the cities. And we will, the Taoiseach, the Taoiseach was recently in Korea, and what we have a mandate that we're open for business two ways. We want Asian Pacific to come to Ireland, more particularly come to Limerick, but equally want to drive our link and our footprint in your countries as well, because we see it as a dynamic in terms of growth. And I suppose our relationship didn't start overnight, and I was looking back. We had missionaries going throughout Asia back in the 19th, 20th century, and we certainly know that many people were educated by our missionaries, and it's something we've looked to continue in a more political way, and obviously with the stakeholders. And really, I suppose, we also want to say that in terms of my role as Minister in Local Government, I'm going around to all the local authorities. The local authorities' remit is changing. Or their remit was very much about delivery of services for homes and even business. Their footprint now is becoming an economic footprint. It's becoming a tourism footprint. They're key to it. And it's about stakeholders coming together and get those synergies. And we're very much doing that in this region. And in terms of our interactions across the spectrums. And can I suppose, finally finish with a quote from W.B. Yeats, who you'll be aware that there are no strangers here, only friends that you haven't met yet. We look forward to continued collaboration. And once again, we really thank you for coming here today. And in my role as both a government minister and more particularly to see for Limerick, Limerick's motto is a city well versed in the art of war. We've come through very turbulent times, and Alan Dukes made reference to back in 2007-08. Ireland is a very different place. Limerick is a very different place, and we're very proud of it. We look forward to our continued collaboration. Thank you all very much.